could be a minority sooner than previously thought. While the white population is aging quickly, many white Americans are delaying their decision to have a family. And as a result, the population is decreasing and minority groups are growing at a rapid speed. Correspondent Ashley Banks has more.
For the first time in U.S. history, more white people died than were born in 2016. Data shows in 26 states, whites are dying faster than they're being born. Between 1999 and 2016, the number of white births fell by 10.8%. That stands at just over 2 million. Researchers suggest the reasons for this decrease are the Great Recession, a drop in fertility rates because people can't afford to have children, and a rise in mortality rates, as most of the white population is aging and dying of natural causes, while others are dying from drug overdoses. A demographer at the University of Texas at San Antonio and a co-author of the report says it seems that white people going under the 50% of the population mark might be happening a few years earlier than projected. Some of the states most affected by this shift are Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, North and South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Michigan. Researchers are predicting by the year 2045, whites could drop well below 50% of the population. While the white population is decreasing, the census says minority populations are steadily rising. In 2017, the Hispanic population rose to 58.9 million, up 2.1% from 2016. The African American population rose to 47.4 million, up 1.2% from last year.
All right, Shalom. I want to begin this lesson by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shah, Wahar, Rakar, Kwadash, which in the ancient Hebrew tongue would be the correct names of the Heavenly Father, His beloved Son, and the Holy Spirit. I also would like to give double honors to my teachers, the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much due honors and respect to the sincere brethren out there that's also laboring in His work. And as always, I want to say shalom to the believers, the Akim as well as the Akwath, which will be you brothers, along with the sisters that subscribe to this truth as well. So yeah, this lesson right here is going to be, pretty much continuing in the spirit and theme of prophecy. And what you just witnessed in the opening clip was just that, a form of prophecy. And if you're spiritual, you'll see that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah is pretty much overthrowing and uprooting the wicked, But before the Lord ultimately uproot the so-called white man, pluck this man out of his position of power, well, that tree, if you will, that seed of wickedness which have been planted is going to wither away. You see that? And this idea of the so-called white man becoming the minority is an example of that. Now, really, when you go into it, these devils have always been the minority, but they manipulate, the statistics, if you will, and the numbers, and it's all an effort to control the narrative. These devils in their pride, they like to push out this idea as if they dominant, as if they're fruitful and they're a dominant nation, you see? But the fact of the matter is, especially in contrast to the children of Israel, these devils have been the minority. Because when you consider the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which again are the true biblical Israelites, well, one of the blessings that prove that we are the children of Israel is the fact that we as a nation is a fruitful nation, you see? And it tells you that when you read the book of Exodus, the first chapter, how we multiply. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's start off with that. All right, the book of Exodus, the first chapter. And let me see. I started the 6th verse. It says, and Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. Verse 7, and the children of Israel were fruitful. See that? And increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Yeah, and that's the same today. And we just saw that, in the numbers, man. Okay? Where you have the Hispanic, the so-called Hispanics, and Latin tribes, as well as the so-called Negroes, so-called African Americans, pretty much exceedingly multiplying. to this very day. See that? Versus Esau, the so-called white man, who was dying out. And that's the spirit, man. See? And really when you look at it through spiritual lenses, it proves that the so-called white man is centered around death. His very existence, his very being is centered around death, man. All right? Everything this man touched, it withers, okay? The planet Earth, for an example. This man was given the planet Earth in his hand, and the earth withered. You see? Here it is, the planet Earth, which was a paradise at one time. Well, when the so-called white man got his hands on the planet Earth, you know, when it fell into his hand, what happened? It withered. The ocean is polluted. You know, you have the trees being cut down, which is known as something called deforestation. See? With these different furniture companies and wood industries, you know, they cutting down the trees. And they not even replanting, you know, the trees, man. See? You have animals at the brinks of extinction. Hell, you got certain animals that's classified extinct, like the white rhino, you know. You got the tiger that's at the brinks of extinction. There's animals that's actually, you know, have surpassed the endangered species list, which it shouldn't be a such thing, man. You know, that's not a normal phrase right there. See, that's not a normal term. Damn endangered species list, man. That's all due to the so-called white man. Why? Because everything centered around this man is death. See? It's death. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's further prove that before we get into this lesson. What's that? The book of St. John, the 10th chapter, in the 10th verse, it says, the thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. See that? And who is the thief? The so-called white man. Okay, let's prove that real quick. The book of Job, the 30th chapter. And starting at the 5th verse, it says, they were driven forth from among men. And this is dealing with Esau, all right? They cried after them as after a thief. See that? So, you know, the idea of being a thief and a robber is associated. That's a stigma that's attached to the so-called white man, see? They were driven forth from among men. Yeah, because when you go into the history, they was driven up into the mountains, man. See? They cried after them as after a thief to dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in caves of the earth. See that? And in the rocks. See that? So, you know, when you look at the so-called white man, for an example, his cities, they're based upon, you know, replicas of clefts and rocks and caves. These buildings is nothing more than a replica of a cliff, man, or a cave. You see? Or Mount Seir, or Petra, when you go into the geographical aspect of history. See? But the point is, they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief. See? So when you read again, St. John, the 10th chapter and the 10th verse, the thief cometh not, but for to steal, and that's what this man did. Everywhere he went, he stole. Every land that he claimed, he stole. Just look at here in America, man. Okay? This man stole his land, all right? The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill. We don't even have to break that down. Okay, this man, history, you take a glimpse into his history, it's riddled with bloodshed, man, and murder, all right? It says, and to destroy, see? And the planet Earth is a testament of that. See? You devils is guilty, man. The planet Earth is in the state that is in now because of your ass, see? It says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And that's the contrast between this current system and the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven, when it's established, life is going to once more flourish on the planet Earth. See? So, with that, this is the book of Job, the 8th chapter, and starting at the 2nd verse. It says, how long wilt thou speak these things, and how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doeth the Most High pervert judgment, or doeth the Almighty pervert justice? if thy children have sinned against him, see, if thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away for their transgressions, if thou wouldest seek unto the Most High betimes, and make thy supplications to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, surely now he will awake for thee. Now, let's examine this, because this is actually a prophecy concerning the so-called white man here, man. Okay? Again, it says, if thy children have sinned against him, which the so-called white man children have sinned against him. How is this possible? Because the children that you see walking the planet Earth today are their forefathers. There's a such thing as reincarnation, man. See? Let's prove that real quick. Book of Isaiah, 14th chapter, in the 21st verse, it says, prepare slaughter for his children. See? Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. Now, why would the Lord prepare slaughter for the children for the iniquity of their fathers? Because they are their fathers, man. See that? It says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. See that? So the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is going to destroy this generation of Esau, so they will not be able to rise again. See that? And that's the campaign for these devils. You know, when you go into, the phoenix, when you break that down, that's pretty much going into the city that rise out of the ashes, man. And that's what these devils believe. They believe that they're going to triumph once more. You know, like they triumphed when ancient Rome fell and they scratched and clawed and came back into power. You see? And that's the pride of these devils, not understanding it was the will of Yahweh Shema Shai for them to come back into power solely to fulfill prophecy. See that? But again, the scripture said, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. And the Lord is cutting Esau off, man. See? And this whole thing of the so-called white man dying out, whether it's something subtle as drug overdoses, these opioids dominating the so-called white community, or just the lack of them being able to produce. That's a sign that Yahweh Shema Shai is not with these devils, and the prophecies is being fulfilled, So, back in Job, the 8th chapter, and starting at the 4th verse again, if thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away for their transgression, if thou wouldest seek unto the Most High betimes, what these devils is not going to do. They know how to seek Yahweh Shema Shai, and it's in the form of the law, statutes, and commandments, man. See that? But guess what? They're not going to do that because they're adverse to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai. See? So much so that these devils has went as far as writing their own laws into legislations. See that? It says, and make thy supplication to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, which we know these devils is not pure. Let's prove that. Stand in the book of Job, the 14th chapter and the 4th verse. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one. See that? So this devil is unclean by nature. It's woven in his DNA. The very fabric of the so-called white man is wicked, man. See that? So he can't be rehabilitated. All right? He was created to be the wicked, man. So there's no way he can be pure. See that? So that's why, again, when you read right here, Job, the 8th chapter, in the 6th verse, if thou were pure and upright, which we know these devils are not, surely now he will awake for thee. Yeah, the Most High will awake for you. Okay? The Lord will come to your rescue. He'll step in on your behalf. If you was pure and upright, so-called white man, the Lord will step in and he'll cover that $1 trillion debt that you in, man. Okay? The American dollar will make a comeback. America will be made great again. See? But you're not pure and upright, so the Lord is not going to step in on your behalf. See? If thou were pure and upright, surely now he will awake for thee and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosperous. See that? So that's why these devils is going under. They're not prospering, man. They're in debt. See? Verse 7, though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end shall greatly increase. Let's read this again. Though thy beginning were small, which, like I mentioned, these devils always been the minority. See? But if you really was the children of the Most High, if you really was in the good graces of the Most High, you will increase, man. Now here it is. Israel, in our lowest state is increasing. That proves that we are the children of the Most High. We the people, we the chosen people of the one you people out there know as God, man. See? It says, though thy beginning were small, yet thy latter end shall greatly increase. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search. Salaki. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. Right, and that's what we did. We prepared ourselves for to the search of our fathers. But is Esau going to do that? Of course not, because Esau is trying to run away from their identity, man. See, this is why we know the so-called white man is not in harmony with the prophecies, because right now we preparing ourselves for the search of our fathers, But is Esau doing that? Of course not, because they want to say that there's no such thing as Esau, or if they do acknowledge the fact that there's Edomites, they like to say that they've been done away with, according to this guy Vocab Malone. See? Verse 9, for we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. See that? Hey, and when you go into the so-called white man and his rulership, is known as a shadow. This is a small time to rule, okay? Matter of fact, let's prove that real quick, which we all know and understand by now. You should know that America is known as the shadow of death. Now, why is it known as a shadow? Because first and foremost, a shadow is darkness, symbolic to darkness, but also a shadow symbolizes the fickleness, if you will. Okay, a shadow is very fickle, meaning you can look down 1 minute, you can see your shadow, you turn your head and it's gone. That's symbolic to the instability of America. Is yet but a shadow, all right? So, and it also ultimately symbolized the fact that this is a short run for the so-called white man, okay? This is not a perpetual rulership here we're dealing with, see? So real quick, this is the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, and I'll just go straight to the point. The 7th verse, it says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, which this is going into the history around, around maybe 3 into 3 AD into the 1300s, roughly, all right, give or take a couple of hundred years maybe. But this is that 1,000 years where the so-called white man was in obscurity, okay? And he came out of that obscurity around the 1300s. See? It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. See? Verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations, which he did. He came right out deceiving everybody, man. Okay? With the image of Cesare Borgia, setting up his image as being the most high in the children of Israel. See? And shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. All right? So, matter of fact, let me jump up to the 3rd verse. All right? It says, and cast them into the bottomless pit. This is dealing with the so-called white man in the time that he went into obscurity. Again, when you go into the year of 3 AD to around the 1300s. See? It says, and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. Yep, because once the 1,000 years were fulfilled, he came right out deceiving again. It says, and after that, he must be loosed a little season. See? And after that, he must be loosed a little season. See? So this is that little season, which is that shadow. So the so-called white man and his rulership is but for a moment. See that? So now let's go back here, Job, the 8th chapter, In the 9th verse again, it says, for we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. See? Verse 10, shall not they teach thee and tell thee and utter words out of their heart? Can the rush grow up without mire? Can the flag grow without water? See? And this is all symbolic to you prospering. And this is across the board. Even as it concerns, a nation. All right? The populating of a nation. See? It's all in the strength of Yahweh Shem Shah, how your nation prosper, man. Not according to you, see? It says, can the rush grow up without mire? Can the flag grow without water? Verse 12, with it is yet in his generation, all right? Salakia, let's read this again. It said, while it is yet in his generation and not cut down, it withereth before any other herb. See that? It withereth before any other herb. And this is symbolic to Esau, man. See? And when you read the next verse, it's going to prove that. So are the paths of all that forget Yahweh Shema Shah. And that's you devils, man. And the hypocrites' hope shall perish. See that? And their hope is that America is going to be made great again, man. See that? See how the scriptures come together? All right? And the scriptures is spot on when highlighting the so-called white man as being the wicked. And when you filter, the current events with the scriptures, it makes all the sense. See? So again, Job 8 and 12, while is yet in his greatness and not cut down, see, which is the so-called white man, it withereth before any other herb. Okay? Now, let's further prove that this is dealing with Esau. All right? Which we're going to go into that word wither. But before we do, let me grab this. Psalms chapter 37. Starting at verse 1. It says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. And that's dealing with Esau. We are not to envy these devils because they have but a short time, man. Right now they're on top, but this is only for a moment, see? Verse 2, and this the point. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass. And again, grass is symbolic, to growth, okay? Producing, see? It says, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither, see, and wither as the green herb. Now, when you click on the word wither, it says to sink or drop down. See, to sink or drop down. And that's happening across the board for Esau. Okay, his dollar, okay, his currency is sinking, it's dropping down. The roadways is literally sinking and dropping down, man. The bridge is sinking and dropping down. All right, the morality, everything here in America. And guess what? The population of Esau. The numbers is sinking and dropping, man. See that? To sink or drop down, languish, wither and fall, fade. See? To fade. All right? And that's what's happening right now. And that's why in the opening clip, you see that these devils has become the minority, which again, they always have been a minority. But, spiritually, the Lord is making it manifest. See? It was a time where these devils wouldn't have put that information out there. They would create the narrative that they are strong people and, they run America. Look, man, there's more Israelites in America than you damn devils, man. All right? You the minority across the planet. See? So, that's all the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah, bringing out this information so, us believers can see that the Lord is working a beautiful work, a beautiful piece of work here, all right? And the clock is ticking on these devils, So y'all just wanted to touch on that, Lord willing. It was edifying. Till the next time I say shalom.